You're really useless, aren't you? How many years have you been working in this company?
I'm sorry. I wonder how many times I've been scolded today. As I timidly raise my face, I see my boss, Nancy, with an angry look in her eyes.
I really wished for someone more capable. Fix this, will you?
Yes. I was handed a document with many typos and errors, for which I had been reprimanded for, and returned to my desk. Hearing my colleagues snickering, I involuntarily shivered. I have been with the company for 15 years. Although puzzled by the sudden demotion announcement, I have accepted it and come to terms with the decision. My manager now is a younger woman who is known to be particularly harsh towards certain subordinates. She was the type to regularly harass and bully the employees she targeted. And she was emotionally volatile. Having such a person overseeing my work in the company, there couldn't be a more unfortunate situation. And looking at the document I was told had many typos, I could hardly find any mistakes. Could it be a company-wide harassment? I sighed. Lately, due to the economic downturn, our company has been encouraging early retirement. Not only that, but cases of forcing unwanted employees to resign by demoting them or harassing them to leave have been increasing. That's a really dirty way of doing things. I sighed, placing the documents on my desk. In front of me was a photo of my beloved wife, Johanna. Looking at Johanna's photo, her flashing a bright smile, I sighed even louder. Why did she decide to be with someone like me? Unlike me, who only graduated high school, Johanna was a well-educated elite with a college degree. She had been successfully climbing her career ladder. Yet, for some reason, she quit her job and followed me when I was demoted and had to relocate.
I was just a bit tired of work. I had been thinking about resigning for a while, so it worked out well. It's not bad. The place we're moving to is a famous tourist spot, and living in the countryside could be nice too.
Since moving here, I've been actively helping around the house, but Johanna has been taking on a lot of the household chores while working part-time at the supermarket. Even when I rant about work every day, she never shows displeasure and listens intently. Sometimes, she would say,
"How could she?"
and agree with me that my tyrannical female boss was the worst.
When I was working full-time, I could only do the bare minimum as a wife, so from now on, I'll do everything I can.
She was a considerate, kind, and respectable wife that I'm proud of. But honestly, I felt inferior to her.
Having a husband like you must be unlucky for her.
Startled, I looked behind me. Nancy.
Putting your wife's photo on your work desk. You really are a loving husband. I've heard rumors that she was more competent than you at work. What a waste. Quitting her job and even coming to this countryside with you.
Nancy said, staring at Johanna's photo with a sneering smile.
I pity your wife. Wouldn't divorce be better for her?
I bit my lip at Nancy's words. Indeed, I might be a burden to my wife. But it's not anyone's place, especially not my manager's, to say that. I could have endured being talked about myself. But I couldn't stand her talking about my wife. I didn't want to be talked down to like that. I didn't want to hold in my anger anymore. I had a strong urge to shout at her. But if doing so worsened my position at the company and led to my dismissal, it would ultimately trouble my wife. Still, there was only so much I could take, I thought to myself as I clenched my fists and took a deep breath. At that moment, the office phone rang. I hurriedly picked it up. Yes, this is Taylor speaking.
Hey, I'm at the reception right now. Can I come over to where you are?
Johanna. Why are you here? I was surprised by the call. Johanna, who was supposed to be at home, was on the line.
I noticed you left your lunchbox at home today. I came to deliver it.
Yes, I did, but I texted you that I'd just buy something.
Well, I was going to be near the office for some shopping anyway, so I thought I might as well drop it off.
I see. Thanks. But you know I'm busy with work, so I can only meet you briefly.
I know.
With that, my wife hung up. As I put down the receiver and looked up, I caught the eye of Nancy, who was staring at me in shock.
Your wife is coming up to the office. Making her deliver a lunchbox is just unbelievable.
I didn't expect her to come either.
Wow. A man who can't get ahead, treating his wife like a maid, truly pathetic.
Whispering this in my ear, Nancy walked away. I instinctively covered my ears and glared at her as she headed back to her desk.
Hello. I'm Johanna, Taylor's wife.
While I was still processing, Johanna had arrived at the office. I was speechless at the sight of her. She was dressed in casual clothes, but the outfit was clearly chosen with going out in mind, a beautiful pastel-colored dress. Johanna has a great figure. The dress beautifully accentuated her curves. Her makeup, subtle yet perfectly applied, complemented her gorgeous features. Taylor's wife is quite a beauty. She's got an amazing figure, stands out, doesn't she? Whispering amongst themselves, the male employees were met with smiles from Johanna, who then hurried over to me.
Well. You have a very beautiful wife, don't you?
Hearing that, I turned to see Nancy staring at Johanna in surprise. It seems even as a woman, she couldn't ignore Johanna's beauty.
Here, you left your lunchbox. I made all your favorites.
Saying this, she handed me the lunchbox with a bright smile. It was odd, Johanna usually packs our leftovers from dinner for my lunch. Her unusually cheerful demeanor today made me wonder what was going on. When suddenly,
Well. Excuse me.
I heard Nancy's voice. She approached us with long strides, looking displeased, and crossed her arms in front of us.
What do you think you're doing here? You're disrupting our office during work hours. Oh, I didn't mean any harm, I just came to deliver my husband's lunchbox. Oh, would you like some? Here. I made these for everyone. Homemade.
She handed beautifully wrapped cookies to Nancy. My wife's offer made Nancy twitch her mouth. It was well known among the employees that Nancy was notoriously bad in the kitchen. A colleague who had been secretly dating her broke up with her over this, which had become a big topic in the office. And I didn't miss it. I noticed the mischievous gleam in Johanna's eyes as she smiled at Nancy. She's doing this on purpose, pretending not to know Nancy would dislike it.
If you'd like, please have some homemade cookies. My husband always speaks so highly of all of you.
Johanna then turned on her heel and began distributing cookies to the other employees. But I was sweating profusely, watching Johanna. I was certain this was her way of getting back at Nancy. Sure, I had complained about the manager to her, but I never expected Johanna to take action herself.
Don't you dare make a joke out of this. Do you think wagging your tail like that will get your husband treated any better?
Nancy threw the cookies on the floor as she yelled at Johanna. Seeing this, the male employees made grim faces. That's a bit too much. One of the employees tried to calm her down, but Nancy's anger only grew. Then, she marched up to Johanna and continued shouting at her.
This is a place for work. Stop handing out cookies to the staff when we don't even know what's in them. What are you implying? How could you say something so awful?
Johanna sniffed her nose as tears started to well up in her eyes. But, it seemed to me that she was fake crying. Johanna is the type to immediately yell back if she's unfairly shouted at. Hey! That's terrible, Nancy. You've gone way too far. The employees gathered around my wife and started criticizing Nancy's behavior. Taylor's wife was just being considerate, handing out treats. But to throw them away and then yell at her like that.
Hey, hold on. What are you all on about?
Just then, the voice of the executive vice president was heard from the reception room. What's going on here? It seemed he had caught wind of the commotion. Today, the executive vice president, who was visiting from the headquarters for a business meeting, came over to us.
Well, you see.
Nancy's face had turned pale. Then, the younger employees began to explain the situation in unison. Executive VP, it's terrible. Nancy yelled at Taylor's wife. She was just handing out cookies after delivering her husband's lunchbox. The male employees exchanged glances.
That's exactly the problem.
The executive vice president then said to Nancy, who was still fuming. Exactly what is? Please explain yourself in that conference room.
Yes.
With a weak nod, Nancy followed the executive VP to a conference room on the side of the floor.
Serves her right. That woman.
Beside me, Johanna muttered in astonishment. Not long after, it was decided that Nancy would be transferred to a different department. She was practically demoted. It was partly because of what happened with Johanna, but it also came to light that she had been harassing other employees. That said, it was clear that she had been following orders from above to harass employees like us, whom they wanted to encourage to resign.
Have you ever considered quitting?
Johanna asked, after I told her in detail about what happened to Nancy. But what will we do then? You're working part-time, and if I quit, I don't know if we can make it.
It's okay. I've already got an eye on a new job. The company I used to work for is hiring mid-career employees. There's a branch in the neighboring town. I talked to my former supervisor about you, and they said they'd love to have you join too. But of course you'd have to be interviewed first.
That's great. But didn't you quit your previous job because you were tired?
Considering the future, it's going to be difficult to balance childcare and a career if we have kids, right? So, I thought about it and realized I couldn't stay at my previous company if we were to have any. That's why I discussed it with my boss and left. When we moved here, I wasn't pregnant yet. But lately, I haven't been feeling well, so I went to the hospital, and...
And? You're pregnant?
Yes, 3 months.
Johanna whispered softly, blushing slightly with a shy smile.
I've also been told by my former company to come back once I can put our child in daycare. They promised to create a work environment that's friendly for mothers by then.
She seemed happy as she spoke.
So, let's just ditch your current company. A company that harasses its employees will go under eventually.
I paused for a moment but then thought that sometimes it's important to act on impulse. You're absolutely right. Where do I sign up to interview at your company? Deciding to leave a company I had worked at for many years wasn't easy. But her light-hearted use of the word ditch helped me not to overthink it. Seeing her refreshing smile, I found myself smiling too. I never thought the situation I disliked so much could turn around for the better, all thanks to Johanna. And there's also our new family member growing inside Johanna. I have to move forward for our child's sake.
I'll get in touch with my ex-colleague then.
Thank you, my love. I nodded vigorously to Johanna's words. Once again, I am reminded of her strength. I resolved to put in more effort and do my best for our family.